But Kevin Stefanski and Ken Dorsey are working together right now to create an attacking offense. So I wanted to pitch to you guys, what do you guys think that's going to look like, especially with the questions of will Watson be there week 1? Do we think Jameis can handle everything that Watson would probably have to handle too?
I mean, my assumption is that Deshaun Watson will be ready to play in week 1.
I'm operating on that same.
But, yeah, the answer to your question is yes. I mean, they're not going to design a different offense for Jameis Winston. I mean, I'm pretty sure Jameis changed his middle name to Aggressive. I mean, he's no stranger to aggressive. The man threw 30 touchdowns and 30 picks in one season. He's the Nuke LaLoosh, if you can get that reference, of the NFL. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever offense they're putting together, and when I think aggressive, I think of throwing the ball downfield. If Deshaun Watson is not ready to go, it'll be a big bummer. But Jameis Winston will run the same exact offense, I would assume.
Yeah, listen, I was excited when I heard attacking offense, and they talked about Kevin Stefanski and Dorsey talking about, hey, they came to the conclusion that they need a more attacking style offense. And so when you do get Jerry Jeudy and you do have Amari Cooper who run routes very well, I think this is a great opportunity to create a think tank and get a lot of different ideas about what the concepts of football that you want to run. And the great thing about it is when you get new people involved and you hear new thoughts and new ideas, it's refreshing. Like sometimes I used to just, during the week, when I'm preparing for my radio show, I listen to everybody's shows, right? Because I want to see what the pulse is and I want to see what other people have to say about some of the same topics. And sometimes by listening to those individuals, it would spark something about, oh yeah, I could come at this topic at a different angle. And football is nothing's new under football, under the sky, under the sun. But sometimes, being around other people gives you a different type of energy and different type of focus. Kevin Stefanski likes to run a lot of, spread people out with 5 wide and then throw the ball to tight ends and stick routes. We made a lot of fun of that. But a lot of what the Cleveland Browns routes are some of the basic stuff, right? And they do a really good job of executing basic concepts at a high level. But when you get to the highest level, it's kind of difficult to run some of that basic stuff. You have to be more complicated, more motion, more vertical routes, more things where you can get bigger chunk plays. So for me, I like the fact that Dorsey is coming off with the Buffalo Bills and he's played with a quarterback that has the arm streak to do that. And I like the fact that he's coming off, a place where he's had some success, but they thought he was a problem. He's going to be coming here hungry, writing different stuff up, and I'm waiting to see what this playbook looks like because I think this year truly will be a different playbook.
Now, if you take just the Dorsey playbook, the one thing I don't like from what Ken Dorsey has done in the past that I don't think is translatable, and I'll get to the things I do think are translatable in a sec, he likes to run your quarterback.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen and Cam Newton are built differently than Deshaun Watson. You saw them up close and personal at lefties. It is no disrespect to Deshaun, but those two, Josh Allen and Cam Newton, are freak of nature, 6'5", 250 pounds. I just feel like their bodies are more capable of taking hits game in, game out than a guy like Deshaun, especially who's coming off a season-ending shoulder injury. So I'm not thrilled if they go in the route of running Deshaun as a legitimate weapon in the running game more frequently than they have in the past. I don't know how you guys feel on that. I just don't want – I think the risk is worth the reward on that.
I think I agree with you, but I'm not as worried about that. I mean, last year when Ken Dorsey was in Buffalo, they were making a point of trying to get Josh Allen to run less.
And that's part of what kind of hampered how Josh Allen had played.
I don't think to me, Deshaun Watson – is not obviously he's not as big as Cam Newton. He's not as big as Josh Allen, which those guys can take hits. Although the hits destroyed Cam Newton's career. I mean, eventually,
over
right?
the course, that
played a big role, and the guy went off a cliff. But I don't think Deshaun Watson doesn't run. Josh Allen is looking to run a lot. I don't feel like Deshaun Watson is looking to run.
I just don't want them to incorporate those. I don't want him taking more hits than he needs to. So if they don't need to run a design run, I'm not in favor of adding that wrinkle into the playbook.
I think Deshaun's more of everything's breaking down. I
agree, and that I don't want to take that out of his game by any means because he's an improviser, and that's what he does best. The things that I do think are translatable from what Ken Dorsey did, from what Tommy Rees did at Notre Dame, from what they bring in with Deuce Staley in the running back position as the coach of that position group, into what happens next year, a vertical passing game. That has to be the first thing. And you go back to last season in Buffalo, or not 2023, but 2022, Josh Allen was letting the ball rip.
Yeah.
And Cam Newton, his entire career was much better at throwing deep balls than he was the intermediate short routes. When Deshaun was healthy in Houston, his deep ball was as good as any quarterback in football.
Yeah.
So I want to see that open up. Assuming Deshaun's healthy for week 1, and I don't know how you guys feel about Nick Chubb. I don't anticipate him being on the field for week 1. What scares you more if you're a defense? Jerome Ford, Deonta Foreman, and Naheem Hines? Or Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, and David Njoku?
Yeah, the passing.
It's not close. So I'm looking at an offense that I think is going to be a 65-35, hell, even 70-30 pass run split. I think it's going to be that drastic this year.
I think you're going too far with 70-30, and you know I love the passing game. I do think they're going to be more pass-based than they've maybe ever been. I mean, maybe that year with Derek Anderson, I don't know how much.
Yeah, right.
How much?
It seemed like they threw the ball a lot.
I know it probably isn't as high as,
Right.
as I remember it, because just in general, people ran the ball more. But yes, the Browns have been a primarily running team, even though every team in football, almost every team, throws more than they pass. But I agree the percentages will be higher, but I think 70 is going too far. But yes, there's a decent chance Nick Chubb's not going to be ready for the start of the season. And even if he is, you're not going to want to give him a full load of carries.
Yeah, ease him in.
One of the things we have not mentioned, and it's natural. How does the offensive line really transition into this passing attack? One of the things that we saw in the beginning of the year was the offensive line didn't seem like it was ready to throw the ball that much. And there's a difference. I played offensive line. My brother played offensive line in college. There is a mindset where there's two different types of linemen. One of them is the offensive lineman that thinks that they're like skill positions. They're like, listen, I'm athletic. Right. You bring all the blitzes you want. We can cover it up. And they're really smart and cerebral. And they're like, they like to point out who coming and who's going. And they pick up blitzes very well. That's one mindset. Then there's another mindset of where you just, we call them knuckle draggers, where they want to put their hand in the dirt. They trying to double team. They trying to lock you off the football. Now, the Cleveland Browns have a mix of both, right?
Sure.
So I don't know how they transition to, hey, we're going to throw the ball 70 times. So, guys, you don't need to hold, right? No holding penalties put us behind. Let Deshaun Watson move out and move around. Sometimes as an offensive lineman, when you got a statue back there, kind of like Joe Flacco, you do need to hold a little bit because you don't want your quarterback getting destroyed.
Right.
But when you got Deshaun Watson that can create, you go back and watch this film. You let a guy come free, Deshaun Watson always makes the first guy miss. So don't hold. It takes a little bit of time to develop that discipline and figure out the difference with what you was doing before and now what we're doing.
Mitchell Schwartz, who obviously played in Cleveland, talked about transitioning from blocking for Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes and went into tremendous detail. I forget what podcast it was, but it was a couple of years ago on the difference in blocking for those two and the techniques. And it took him half a season, he said. And Mahomes, when he started I guess it was his second season, his first year start.
Mitchell Schwartz.
That's what I said. He started as a
He was good when he was on this show.
He came on this show,
Yeah, he was good when
he said in Mahomes' first year as a starter, so his second year in the league, because it took me half the season to figure out, okay, if this guy beats me at this angle against Alex Smith, it's a sack.
Right.
If this guy beats me at this angle with Patty back there, he's taking 2 steps up, and that's going to open up so many holes to the right to escape from, and no one's better in the league at doing that. So I do think there is credence to that, G.
Yeah.
But I also, can you practice that, or is that natural game instincts you just develop through legitimate reps against opposing? I'm not sure if you could actually work that out, especially with the new offensive line
how
coach.
could you really practice?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's the reps. That's why it's so crazy. It's almost cheating when you got a quarterback that's been playing forever.
Yeah.
And then you got left tackles and the guys up front that have been playing for 4 or 5 years. That's when you start to develop that stuff, and that's how you say, how come we can't tackle Patrick Mahomes? Well, but when you do get a shot at him, they're not giving you any negative plays back. They're not going to hold you. They're going to count on him to make you look silly, and then we're going downfield. Right. And then, so that's the type of thing you need to gel with. So for me, remember, the first game that we played Pittsburgh, the second game of the season, you remember Jed Wills was like swimming.
It was bad.
It was bad. He was lining up. It just looked like he was confused.
The offensive line's got to change its mindset and be prepared. That's what the offseason is for. But, yeah, you're right. There's only so much you can do in practice. It's getting used to playing with that guy. Frankly, they haven't played with Deshaun Watson that much.
No.
And that's part of the issue.